So over the past dozen or so videos on this channel, we've been checking out why undesigned coincidences in the New Testament are a big deal, backing up just how trustworthy the gospel stories are. As a quick refresher, undesigned coincidences happen when different bits of info in two or more sources unexpectedly match up in a way that seems pretty casual and appear to be unplanned. It's like a surprise connection that not only grabs your attention, but it also screams truth alert. Now, let's dive into another cool example from the Gospels. Right in John chapter 12, it reads, 6 days before the Passover, Jesus therefore came to Bethany, where Lazarus was, whom Jesus raised from the dead. So they gave a dinner for him there. Martha served, and Lazarus was one of those reclining with him at table. The next day, the large crowd that had come to the feast heard that Jesus was coming to Jerusalem. So they took branches of palm trees and went out to meet him, crying out, Hosanna! Blessed is he who comes in the name of the Lord, even the King of Israel. So John throws in a special nugget that the other gospel writers skip, that Jesus rolls into Bethany 6 days before Passover, then the next day casually strolls into Jerusalem on a donkey just 5 days before Passover. Now, can we fact check John's precision? You bet. Head on over to Mark 11 and you'll spot a similar Bethany entrance, though Mark doesn't drop the specific timestamp. It reads, Now, when they drew near to Jerusalem, to Bethphage and Bethany at the Mount of Olives, Jesus sent 2 of his disciples and said to them, Go into the village in front of you, and immediately as you enter it, you will find a colt tied on which no one has ever sat. Untie it and bring it. And they brought the colt to Jesus and threw their cloaks on it, and he sat on it. And many spread their cloaks on the road, and others spread leafy branches that they had cut from the fields. And those who went before and those who followed were shouting, Hosanna! Blessed is he who comes in the name of the Lord. Blessed is the coming kingdom of our father David. Hosanna in the highest. And he entered Jerusalem and went into the temple. And when he had looked around at everything, as it was already late, he went out to Bethany with the 12. So Mark doesn't spell out that Jesus hit up Bethany 6 days before Passover or rode into Jerusalem the next day. But he suggests that they snagged the colt bright and early. The disciples get the colt. There's the triumphal entry. And Jesus and the crew stroll into the temple, eyeballing everything, which would probably be a full day's gig. So if we go with the idea that Jesus walked into Jerusalem 5 days pre-Passover, which is said outright by John and hinted by Mark, let the countdown begin in Mark's gospel. Let's see if the days line up with John's story. It's time to connect the dots. So we're looking at Mark 11:12 through 14. It reads, On the following day, when they came from Bethany, he was hungry. And seeing in the distance a fig tree in leaf, he went to see if he could find anything on it. When he came to it, he found nothing but leaves, for it was not the season for figs. And he said to it, May no one eat fruit from you again. And the disciples heard it. So here we get the scoop on the whole fig tree curse. It went down the following day, so that would be now 4 days pre-Passover if John's timing is on point. Let's piece together the gospel puzzle here. After the temple commotion, they left the city in the evening according to Mark 11:19. By the next morning, the withered fig tree signals that we're 3 days before Passover according to Mark 11:20. Now jump over to Mark 13 and you have the whole Mount of Olives discourse set in the evening, balancing between the Jerusalem temple and Bethany. Now Mark 14:1 tells us straight up it was now 2 days before the Passover. So Mark and John's timeline mesh totally seamlessly, solidifying John's timestamp accuracy. This is another check mark for John's unique details, confirming the harmony in the gospel narratives. There's just absolutely no way that John is playing a countdown game by carefully scanning Mark and casually dropping the 6 days before Passover bomb in his narrative. This detail is slyly tucked away, requiring quite a bit of sleuthing to uncover. Crafting and hiding such a coincidence would be a writer's challenge. Let's be real. If a writer was smart enough to cook up an unexpected twist and slip it into the text, it would be pointless if no one noticed it for ages. Most authors would want to shout it from the rooftops. Yet in the Gospels, we get crickets. The lack of attempts to showcase these coincidences and the writer's apparent cluelessness about them strongly suggests that what they're writing is a real history grounded in honest testimony. I hope you've been enjoying this series on undesigned coincidences. I will have even more examples, possibly even from the Old Testament in future videos. So be sure to subscribe, and thank you so much for watching.